The stage lights blazed across the Jimmy Kimmel live set, reflecting off polished floors and eager faces. The crowd clapped right on cue as the band wrapped up its opening riff. Jimmy turned toward the curtain with his trademark grin, holding a cue card in one hand and a mug in the other. "All right, everybody," he said, voice smooth and upbeat. "Our next guest is never short on opinions, and most of them get him in trouble. Give it up for Bill Maher." The audience erupted in a mix of excitement and curiosity. Bill strode out in a dark suit, wearing his familiar half-smile, confident, detached, already reading the room. He shook Jimmy's hand, took his seat, and crossed one leg over the other. Jimmy leaned forward. "Bill, always good to see you. You've been busy. New season, new tour, and 1,000 people mad at you online. Business as usual?" Bill chuckled. "It's not business as usual, Jimmy. It's honesty as usual. That's the thing people confuse." The audience laughed, a warm kind of laugh that comes when everyone still thinks it's friendly banter. Jimmy nodded, grinning. "Well, we love honesty here, unless it gets U.S. canceled, of course." Bill tilted his head. "Then you don't love honesty. You just rent it by the minute." The crowd reacted, half laughter, half surprise. Jimmy's smile froze briefly before he laughed it off, tapping his cue card on the desk. "You've been here 30 seconds and already roasted me. I see how tonight's going to go." The tension was subtle, but there, like static building in the air. Jimmy tried to keep it light. "You know, Bill, you've been on every talk show for decades. Your talk shows, basically. But I've got to ask, do you ever get tired of arguing with everyone?" Bill leaned back, fingers steepled. "No, I get tired of everyone pretending they agree with everyone. That's what's ruining conversation. Too much smiling, not enough thinking." The crowd chuckled, uncertain whether to clap or stay quiet. Jimmy forced a laugh. "So you're saying I smile too much?" Bill shrugged. "I'm saying you smile when you don't mean it. You all do. That's television." The audience laughed louder, half amused, half unsure. Jimmy blinked, smile holding but showing a flicker of unease. "Well, I am in the entertainment business, Bill. It's my job to make people feel good." Bill nodded slowly. "Right. You entertain them. I try to wake them up. Two very different careers." The line hit hard. The laughter stopped. Someone whistled softly from the back. Jimmy's grin faltered, then returned. "Okay, but you're not exactly a monk, Bill. You're on TV. You like the spotlight." Bill leaned forward slightly, tone calm, but cutting. "I like the spotlight when it shows something real. You like it when it's flattering." The crowd reacted again, louder laughter, scattered applause. Jimmy waved it off, but his tone tightened. "So now I'm fake and vain?" Bill smiled. "I didn't say that." "You did." The studio burst into laughter. Jimmy leaned back, pretending to laugh along, though his knuckles whitened around the card. He gestured toward the band to pivot. "So, about your new tour," Bill cut in, still smiling. "See? There it is. Deflect, joke, move on. That's why people trust comedians more than talk show hosts now." The audience erupted. Laughter, cheers, scattered claps. Graham from a band struck a cymbal nervously. Jimmy exhaled through a forced grin. "Wow," he said. "Remind me not to invite you on my birthday." Bill smirked. "You wouldn't have to. You'd talk enough for both of us." The crowd howled. Jimmy lifted his mug, sipping to fill the silence. The laughter faded to a nervous hum. His grin stayed frozen, but the easy rhythm of the show was gone. The cue cards fluttered in his hands. "So, Bill," he said lightly, "you spent your career telling people how the world should be. Don't you ever get tired of hearing yourself talk?" It was meant as a joke, but the room didn't move. A few scattered laughs, then quiet. Bill leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes steady. "That's funny. I could ask you the same thing. You talk every night and somehow manage to say nothing." The crowd reacted, half shock laughter, half cheers. Jimmy took another sip to stall. "Careful," he said. "You're on my turf." Bill smiled. "Exactly. And that's why it's so quiet all of a sudden." The audience roared. Jimmy forced a laugh, half a beat too late. Okay. You're sharp tonight. Bill shrugged. Always. I'm not here to play the Hollywood nice game, Jimmy. I'm too old for that. Jimmy straightened. What does that mean, the Hollywood nice game? It means, Bill said, everyone here smiles at camera, tells safe jokes, and pretends they've changed the world. You know the routine. A ripple of laughter swept through the crowd. Jimmy's grin thinned. So now you're insulting the entire late-night family? I'm describing it, Bill replied. If it sounds like an insult, maybe that says something. Gasps. Applause. A whistle from the back. Jimmy leaned in, voice firmer. I think you underestimate how hard this job is. Try filling an hour every night. Bill didn't blink. I fill an hour every week with ideas. You fill it with celebrity confessions. The line hit hard. The audience broke into chaotic laughter. Jimmy's smile vanished. You came here to start a fight, he said. No, Bill replied quietly. You invited me. But apparently honesty counts as fighting now. Applause erupted. The band played a faint sting, unsure whether to lighten the air. Jimmy waved them off. All right, calm down. He looked at Bill. You make it sound like everyone's afraid to talk. But you? I'm not afraid to lose a few likes, Bill said crisply. That's the difference. The crowd shouted. Laughter mixed with boos. The show was slipping away. Jimmy took a breath, setting his notes aside. Let's get serious for a second, he said, tone tight. You say you're honest, but people call you rude, arrogant, out of touch. Ever stop and think maybe the problem isn't everyone else? Bill paused and smiled. No, it makes me think people confuse bluntness with cruelty. I tell the truth. They call it arrogance because it stings. The audience clapped slowly, then louder. Jimmy laughed awkwardly. Oh, come on. You enjoy stirring it up. Of course I do, Bill said. But I don't pretend it's therapy. You pretend every punchline saves the world. The line landed like a slap. Gasps. Cheers. The floor manager gestured wildly. But Jimmy ignored him. So what are you saying? Jimmy pressed. I shouldn't care about people. I'm saying stop trying to be everyone's friend. Comedy dies when the host fears the audience. A long wave of applause. Even crew members grinned off camera. Jimmy's jaw tightened. Easy for you to say, he snapped. You've built your career complaining. Some of us try to make people laugh. Bill tilted his head. You confuse laughing with agreeing. They're not the same. The crowd erupted, applause booming. Jimmy slammed his cue card down. All right, Philosopher King. What's your secret? How should we do it? Bill didn't hesitate. Say what you mean. If it bombs, own it. Don't rewrite the joke to fit the crowd. The audience roared. Jimmy laughed, but hollowly. So you've never backed down from anything? Never from a truth, Bill said. From bad jokes, sure, but not from truth. Jimmy shook his head. You really believe you're the only honest man in showbiz? Bill smiled faintly. No, I just notice how quiet it gets when I show up. The audience went wild, whistles, applause, even a few standing. The band hit a drum beat that couldn't hide the tension. Jimmy lifted his mug. Well, congratulations. You've made my crowd your crowd. Bill nodded. They were never yours. They just wanted someone to say what they were thinking. The studio roared. Jimmy smiled for the camera, but not for real. Okay, he said, voice shaking. We'll take a quick break. The red light blinked. The band stumbled into a tune that sounded almost apologetic. The camera panned out. Bill sat calmly, eyes fixed on Jimmy, who avoided his gaze. The confrontation had turned into domination. The air was electric. The crowd had stopped being an audience. They were spectators at a duel. Every line from the guest drew cheers or groans. Every comeback from the host felt like a swing in a boxing ring. The host gripped his cards. The grin he'd worn for years no longer effortless. The producers saw it. The tremor in his jaw, the darting glances toward the booth. He exhaled. You know, he said evenly, it's easy to tell others how to talk. But keeping this energy, making people laugh, it's not as simple as you make it sound. The guest leaned forward, tone calm. Simple isn't the problem. Honest is. You've built your empire on being liked. I built mine on being listened to. A nervous laugh rippled through the audience. You're saying I'm fake, the host said. I'm saying you're rehearsed, the guest replied. Every line sounds like it went through 5 focus groups. Gasps, laughter, applause. The host glanced at the red light. Millions watching. He couldn't lose composure. He laughed sharply. That's rich, coming from someone who's made a career out of being the smartest guy in the room. That's not arrogance, the guest said. It's experience. When you've been around long enough, you stop confusing charm with substance. The crowd roared again. The band tried a riff to ease tension, but it only amplified it. The host straightened, meeting his guest's eyes. All right, then, give me some substance. What should we be doing? Oh, wise one. The guest's answer was quiet but cutting. Start by asking questions you actually care about. The audience can tell when you don't. Laughter and disbelief echoed off the walls. The host's cheeks flushed. He sipped his mug, setting it down with a clink. You really think you're the only honest man left in television? The guest's smile widened. No, just the only one not scared of losing an ad break. Applause. Whistles. The chant began, "Say it again," rising from the back. The host slammed his cards. Enough. Silence. You come on my show, he said, voice shaking, and think you can tear apart? This is entertainment. The guest stood slightly calm, and it was until you made it about you. The roar was immediate. Cheers, boos, shouts for calm. The floor manager signaled to cut, but the host kept going. You're not the hero here, he said. You're just louder. The guest stood tall. No, I'm just not afraid of silence. The crowd gasped. The noise vanished, leaving only the hum of the lights. The host stared, speechless, as the director called it. The floor manager rushed forward, but the host waved him off. Sit down, he barked. The guest shook his head. Oh, I think we're done. Chaos returned. Shouting. Whistles. The guest turned to the audience. Relax. This isn't a fight. It's what honesty looks like on television. Applause exploded. The host smiled stiffly. Yeah, honesty, my favorite thing to be ambushed with. The guest stepped toward the edge. If you're surprised by honesty, maybe that's the ambush. Laughter rippled again. Jimmy forced a laugh, tapping his papers. You've had your fun. The guest smiled. Fun? I thought this was a conversation. But you seem to prefer the monologue. The crowd groaned and laughed. Someone yelled, Ouch! Jimmy slammed his palm on the desk, half rising. All right, that's it. Thank you for coming. The band blared the outro, a loud jazzy riff drowning the shouting. The guest stayed calm, took a sip of water, and said into the mic, And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how truth clears a studio. The audience went wild, standing, clapping, booing, cheering. Jimmy turned to the camera, smile strained but professional. We'll be right back, he said, voice shaking with forced cheer. The red light blinked out. The studio buzzed. Crew rushing. The host arguing. The band playing aimlessly. The guest handed his mic to an assistant, straightened his tie, and walked off stage. Not angry, just done. Behind him, the host slumped, rubbing his temples, applause still echoing faintly from a hallway. The cameras never came back from commercial. When the broadcast resumed, a new host introduced a pre-taped interview. Later that night, clips of the clash flooded social media, each captioned with the same line Bill had delivered before walking away. This isn't a fight. It's what honesty looks like on television. Within hours, it became the moment everyone was talking about, a rare night when a guest walked onto a stage built for laughter and left having rewritten the tone of the entire show.